about my background, I graduated in engineering, electrical engineering in 2022 from Veer Mata Jijabai Technological Institute, VJTI, in Mumbai, which is like the premier most institute in Maharashtra. After that, I joined PwC, which is the big four consulting firms out there, as a technology consultant, where I primarily had a client-facing role. Where I worked on SAP technology, S4HANA. During my work experience, I started applying to various master's programs in engineering management and management science and engineering. And in the end, I got admits from Columbia University, Dartmouth College, Purdue University, and University of Washington, which is in Seattle. So these were the four universities I got admitted into. Apart from that, a little bit personal about myself. I am an ardent yoga and meditation practitioner and also a certified yoga teacher. And I believe that throughout my entire journey, yoga and meditation have played a major role in giving me clarity, direction, maintaining balance at tough times. And I think that is one of the key factors which helped me sail through the entire process. While I was working in PwC, I realized that I wanted to shift into the management side of the entire business. Even though I had a client-facing role, it was still more on the technical aspect. So I realized I wanted to shift into the management side of the entire business ecosystem, and especially the strategy part of it, while also staying in the technology industry, especially with the upcoming traction of artificial intelligence and data science, etc. So I wanted to stay in the technology industry, but be in the management aspect, especially in the strategy, finance part. During that time, I realized I would want to look for some post-graduation programs to help me, reach that stage of skill set and opportunities. At that time, I wanted to get into something techno-managerial, like a mix of both engineering and management. And that's when I heard about this program called Masters of Engineering Management and also the Management Science and Engineering program. I think both of them are pretty synonymous. However, there is a little difference in terms of curriculum, but serves the same purpose. So that's when I encountered that. And I started applying for that, and I realized it aligns with my goals. You can reach a very good management position. You can kind of make a good business impact through the technology industry. So that was my aim, and that's how I started applying. Typically, for a master's program, generally work experience is not mandatory. It's good to have a few months or few years of work experience, but it's not an absolute must. However, for people who go for MBA, that is a full-time MBA program, for them, at least 2 to 3 years of work experience, that is mandatory. And that brings back to the entire motivation I had. So one major factor which stopped me to apply to the MBA program full-time was that, so I wanted to get into management, but a full-time MBA program requires around 3 to 4 years of work experience. And also it's much more costly in the US. So that kind of prohibited me because I just had like hardly 1 year of work experience. So in that case, I realized that the Management Science and Engineering program in Columbia University especially offered a quite comprehensive curriculum in both management and engineering. So half of my courses, 50% or more than that, will be from the Columbia Business School, and half of them are going to be from the Columbia Engineering School. The degree also is granted as a joint degree. So I'll also be a CBS alumni, Columbia Business School alumni as well. So it kind of ticked all my boxes. So it all begins firstly with your test scores. So however, I would come back to this point, but test scores are a very important factor. It could be your GRE or the GMAT. Uh, I actually had given GMAT twice before I gave my GRE. So my initial GMAT score was 640. The next attempt was 680. Just highlighting my failures over here. Many people think all of this happens overnight, which is not the case. So I have been preparing for this since 2021. Gave my first attempt, second attempt, didn't work out. Because in GMAT, you need minimum of 700 or 720 as a benchmark. 680 for an Indian candidate pool, it doesn't work out. Then after that, I was like figuring out what to do. Should I give my third attempt or not? So that's when I realized maybe I should switch my exam. I'll try the GRE. Then I gave my GRE. I prepared for my GRE. More about that in a while. And I scored a 331 out of 340, which is like the 95th percentile of test takers. Yeah. The split was 165 in verbal and 166 in quants. And 4.5 in the writing section. So the process again begins from you giving the GRE or the GMAT, whichever is applicable to your program, followed by your English proficiency. So almost all universities require you to give a English proficiency test. It could be your TOEFL, it could be your IELTS or any other test as well. That is a mandatory must. I gave my TOEFL just after my GRE. TOEFL consists of like reading, writing, speaking, and listening sections, testing primarily fundamentally your English speaking, writing, communication abilities in English. I got 114 on 120 in TOEFL with 30 on 30 in writing. So after completing the TOEFL, so now you're done with the GRE and TOEFL part, and like I would call this like the phase 1 of your application. In the phase 2, you enter with all the essays. So for MBA applicants, they have the essays, which varies depending on university to university. For masters, you have the statement of purpose. Apart from the statement of purpose, in the MEM application cycle or the MSc application cycle, there were a lot of universities which also required you to write an extra essay. So, for example, I also got admitted into Dartmouth College, in which they had asked not only the SOP, that is the statement of purpose, but also the MEM specific essay, which basically focuses on highlighting the work you have done for social impact, for the community, hopefully using technology and your technological skills. So these kind of essays also deep dive into your entire profile and personality. So that is also an added aspect. So the major chunk, the next 3 months, okay, so in terms of speaking, in terms of timelines, I gave my GRE TOEFL in September. And from October to December, that is October, November, December, 3 months, I focused on crafting my statement of purpose. At the same time, I also, there is also this entire process of getting letter of recommendations from various, like your professors, your employers. So at times you need to also specify them, like what is the format, like what you would want them to specifically address. Of course, they would write the recommendations and upload it from their side, but you do have a little right to explain them how it works.
Yes.
And so all these things takes time. Especially the statement of purpose is a highly iterative document, I would say, at least for all the candidates. It doesn't happen in one night or one day. And like the first draft you write would be, when you look at it, you will just cry, because you'll think that I won't get into any university after reading the first draft. But I would say the first draft itself lays the foundation, and then the entire journey is actually about getting the entire story into the word limit. I would say that is the entire challenge. You can write a beautiful essay, you can have a lot of things to say, but if you can't get it under the word limit, let's say for Stanford it was 1,000 words. For other universities, it was also around 1,000, 1,100, something like that, 1,100 words. You have to get it into that, or else your application might get rejected just on the basis of crossing the word limit. So the entire challenge becomes that, especially for people who have a lot of things to write from their work experience. So that is there. And then finally, there is a very long phase of uncertainty and waiting period where you don't know what's going to happen. You have applied to all the universities by December or January, and slowly a few rejects, a few admits, and then the final phase would be the visa application and decision making of your university. Visa application, visa interview, and then the other aspects of packing and leaving the country, the emotional aspects of that.
Yeah.
There are three aspects into this. One is self-funding, the other is education loan, and the third is scholarships. So these are the three aspects. A lot of people go ahead with self-funding. I am personally going ahead with the self-funding part because of various family decisions regarding that. I also have my aunt sponsoring me, so at times, which just got decided. So that is one aspect to it. But however, I've seen a lot of people go ahead with the education loan offered by various banks and various organizations. People also go ahead to take federal loans out there in the US, which offer cheap, like less rate of interest. So that is one aspect. However, I've not explored that much. Third aspect is the scholarship part. There are a lot of scholarships going on, like the Tata Scholarship, Reliance Scholarship, endowment fund. So you need to apply to that prior or like while your statement of purpose or your application, because the deadlines are pretty early, like in December or January, February itself. So I would like to let know the aspirants to keep an eye on all the scholarship as well. It's just a simple Google search. If you just Google search, you'll get a list of 5-10 big companies offering a great scholarship option. However, it's a little bit difficult to actually go through the entire selection process because they are also pretty selective. Colleges also offer a lot of scholarships. So for me, Dartmouth offered 40% scholarship on tuition, which was given by the university itself. So, and there are a lot of universities like Purdue University, in which the scholarship is not offered, but the entire cost of education is in itself very low. So I had a rough estimate of like 20-25 lakhs for Purdue, which is, I would say, even cheaper than a lot of Indian MBAs out there.
This is for 1 year. What did the expense? Can you put the time part also?
So it depends on program too. So for Purdue, for 2 years, it is like 20-25 lakhs, which is very cheap, because for this program, for the engineering management program, they have a special co-op for 1 year. So before you graduate, you do a 1-year co-op, which is between the course. So you are practically starting to earn before you even graduate. So you just have to pay this first semester fee. Probably you have the co-op for the next 2 semesters you earn, and then you sponsor yourself for the final semester. So that's how it works. So it was a pretty interesting program in terms of return of investment. Greg Matt is a website. He's a tutor basically, and he's like the uncrowned king out there for GRE tutoring, I would say. Personal experience, and a lot of people have experienced that. And to top it off, it's a very cheap tutoring. Like you just have to pay like $5 or $6 a month, which is like $400-500 a month, and it's a 2-month plan. So within 1,000 rupees, you're guaranteed to score above 320, provided you put the effort given, the plan given by Greg Matt. As compared to other companies like Magoosh and all those things, they have a pretty high pricing. And like I have used for GMAT, I used Magoosh and eGMAT, and I didn't find much value out of them. They were pretty long, and the strategies required to crack an exam were not provided, even though the costing was very high. So for GRE, I followed Greg Matt. It's like you just go blindly for that. The entire plan is laid out by him. he also takes live sessions as well weekly where you can ask your doubts. So it's an awesome program within 2 months. I prepared only for 6 weeks for the GRE, but ideally people go ahead for the 8-week plan. And for TOEFL as well, people take the GregMat only because it has that integrated plan for both GRE and TOEFL. So I just blindly trusted GregMat and it worked out in many ways. After that, for the statement of purpose part, there is not much you can do about it. It's just like you have to be yourself firstly. That is the most important thing. If you use chat GPT, you won't be able to translate the true story of yourself. So I feel firstly, for statement of purpose, there are not much resources. One thing which everyone can do is go ahead and connect with their college or undergrad seniors and at least try to get at least 1 or 2 SOPs, preferably in the program they are applying, and go through it, understand the structure. So I'll just take a minute here to take this opportunity to educate people about the SOP structure as well, which I followed. So I started with an introduction about myself, and the SOP, when you write an SOP, within the first 30 seconds of the reader reading the SOP, they should know why you want to do, firstly, what program you are interested in and why you want to do this program. Within the first 30 seconds, they should know this, or else it doesn't make sense. So the first 2 lines, you can start with what is your background and everything, and then probably narrate one incident or a personal experience which triggered you to pursue this program, and it should align very well. So that is the first paragraph. Then you can start talking about your experiences. Like I dedicated my first paragraph to my experience in PwC and then other internships as well. Again, in the experience part, it is very essential not to delve into the technical details of it. So a line to explain what you did, and the aspirant should focus more on the learnings from those experiences. What did you learn from that experience? What triggered a few things during that experience, and how that learning aligns with the motivation for you to pursue this degree. This is very essential. This is what all universities are looking for. Your learnings from your experience and how it aligns with the motivation.
Right.
I have seen a lot of people who go ahead and talk a lot about the technical details of what they did, how they did this, they did that. Doesn't matter. As long as you're specifying the impact, preferably quantified impact, that's enough. You can just explain what you've done in a line or two, a quantified impact line, and then probably more focus on the learnings. This is one thing. One more aspect of the SOP was I also had a low CGPA. So I would not say very low, but it was generally people say it should be above 8 out of the 10 scale, but I was a little below that. So I addressed that very honestly in my SOP. I said that even though there were a few things which is not up to the expectations, I have done this and this, and I also highlighted my GRE score in the SOP. So it's best to address when there is some shortcomings in your overall profile. It could be your GRE, it could be your work experience, anything. It's best to address that. I feel when you're addressing it, the committee becomes more generous and realize that he has accepted or addressed that, and he's not an ignorant person and looking for. And you are also you have to show them in 1 line or 2 line. You have to explain them how you are going to not repeat the same mistake out there during the program. So that is one aspect to it. So yeah, and then the experiences and mainly the university specific. Why just this university? What attracts you? And a few professors' names and their work which attracts you.
Right.
I think this is the SOP structure which is ideal and which I followed. Yeah, so for SOP, yes, there are no much resources. You just have to follow the structure and be through it. Same for the LORs. LORs, I'll go ahead and say that try to tell your recommenders to keep it like not more than 1 or 2 paragraph. That's the best way to go about it. So firstly, as I said, in my initial GMAT failures, overcoming that itself was a big challenge for me. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people out there who have various shortcomings in their profile. In this aspect, I think yoga and meditation helped me a lot to bring me to balance and focus my energies in a proper direction. I became very stubborn in that sense that I won't give up now. Like it's a do or die thing. Coming back to your question, I see a lot of people, they face challenges regarding to their profile, like they have a low GPA, so that prohibits them to apply itself. They have a low GRE, so that prohibits them to apply. For me, one bigger challenge was since I was working, it was and I had a client facing role. Again, I had to go to the client site every day, morning to evening, and then I only had time when I come back at my room in the evening, and then draft my SOPs and resumes, etc. So one challenge was balancing that time.
Right.
What I followed was I just promised myself I'll just give 1 hour every day to this entire thing. It's okay. It's just an hour. I'll just come back, probably have my dinner, and give my 1 hour dedicated to the process. It takes a lot of time in that sense. That's why it took me like 2.5 months to finally arrive at my final draft. But it's okay if you dedicate even half an hour, 45 minutes every day, like keeping everything aside. No, you won't entertain anything. Just focus on that. Then I would say even 45 minutes every day would sail you through the process in 2.5 months. So balancing your time is very essential. Sometimes I used to, even in the office, when my workload was less, I used to open my phone and start writing a few lines on the Google Docs or anything. So balancing time is one more challenge. One advice here is that to be always in touch with someone who is already abroad. So I had a lot of friends from my college itself, and my cousin brother himself was in US. So I was in constant touch with all of these people. So what happens is that you don't make the mistakes they made. So it reduces the challenges you will encounter. So learning from their mistakes and taking rectifying steps early on helps a lot. And you need a guidance from someone who has gone through the entire process. It might not necessarily be from the same program or the same school you want to go, but having that is also it's like nothing better than that. But if you can't find someone from the same program, it's okay. Like at least they have gone through the similar process, they can help you with that. One small example is that I was in touch with someone, and they told me some small minor changes in my passport. Like it's like I wouldn't have even dreamt of that. I didn't have my surname specified in my passport. Everything was in my initial name itself, because I am a South Indian, so we don't keep the surname. So that was one important aspect which I got changed pretty early in the application stage, or else it would have been a problem later on. So all these small things, you get to realize when you're in constant touch with someone. So for any aspirant out there, before starting anything, I would just, request you, go on LinkedIn, go on your network, and just find that one person who is ready to support you, give you at least some time. May respond late, but at least give you some time, because that's very important, or else it becomes very difficult.